Hello everyone, how is it going? I hope you're having a nice day, wherever you are. Uh, Today I found this really nice location and I decided to shoot a video next to that pond. As you can see, I feel like it's a pretty nice spot in the wilderness. So I'm enjoying it, meditating, reading my book, playing guitar. And I was randomly thinking of the allegory of the hourglass, and I wanted to share what I think of this allegory on the channel. So what is the allegory of the hourglass? Well, it's a rather strange concept, pretty straightforward, but a bit strange. You tell me what you think. I think it's a bit strange, and it came to me in a dream a few years ago. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was one of those very strange dreams, where everything is abstract and you can't make sense of any of it. Yet it somehow speaks to you. Do you know what I mean? These kinds of dreams, as if your subconscious was trying to say something to you or give you a friendly advice, something like that. That was kind of the feeling of that dream anyway. And although most of it was quite incoherent and, just like messy, like dreams can be, there's one part of the dream that I vividly remembered the next day, and it kind of stuck with me ever since. And there was this one part of the dream where I was faced with a giant hourglass. Uh, it looked like it was 40 meters tall, gigantic. And here I am, and I'm faced with this giant hourglass. And I'm looking closely, and I can see that at the point where the top and the bottom parts of the hourglass meet, in the narrowest point of the hourglass, I noticed there was me in there, stuck in there. And I was processing the sand that was flowing from above, processing it, and then letting it flow downwards in the bottom part of the hourglass. Uh, Very random, very strange, but it stuck with me, and I kept thinking about this gigantic hourglass and me being stuck in the middle of it for a few days after that dream. And I couldn't make sense of it at all. But I had been quite worried about the notion of time by then. I remember there was something that was on my mind all the time. Um, am I too old? Am I too young? Is time passing by too fast? Am I missing something? Things like that. Um, and then I had this dream, and it sort of added up together. And I realized that this hourglass that I viewed in my dream maybe was an allegory for time, and maybe my subconscious was trying to appease me, so that I wouldn't worry so much about the thought of time slipping through my hands. And so I kept thinking about it, and then I realized that the top part of the hourglass could be seen as the past, and the bottom part of the hourglass the future. And the present, the current moment I am in right now, would be the narrowest point of the hourglass, right in the middle. And that's what I was stuck in my dream, remember? And that's when I realized that there's nothing you can do, and you are in the present. The present is all that exists. The past and the future are just abstract concepts. And the sand flowing from the top to the bottom, I guess, represents time. Each minute that passes. So yeah, I kept thinking about all of this. And now it's my go-to whenever I get a bit anxious about time, or I'm thinking like, oh gosh, I'm 25 years old, and it sometimes feels like I haven't accomplished anything in my life. I know it's a bit of a daunting thought. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that too. Um, and by the way, in those moments, it's important to remind ourselves that we can be our harshest critic, and that if somebody was to speak to you the way you speak to yourself, you would probably think, "Oh, what a rude prick," you know. So yeah. Anyway, I'll close the parenthesis here, but you know, um, yeah. When I'm stuck with my worrying thoughts, am I too old? Is time going by too fast? Am I missing out on life? I try to remind myself of that hourglass allegory. Um, because in a silly way, it's I can visualize it very well, and in a silly way, it reminds me that there's nothing we can do. We're just stuck with the present. That's what we have, and that's our greatest gift. And we can't change the past, and we can't predict the future. These are all very basic things that I'm saying here. I'm aware of that. Um, but I thought it'd be interesting for me to explain how I visualize the future, the past, and the present. Um, when I do think about these things, anyway. Yeah. Um, and I started to think about this a lot lately again. Um, but I'm a bit of a crossroad in my life at the moment. I'm feeling a bit lost, and I don't really know what's the next move, what's the next step, and it scares me a great deal. It really does. It keeps me up at night, you know. I try to not let it affect me too much, but it does affect me, you know. And so I wanted to remind myself of that hourglass revelation I had a few years ago, and I wanted to put it to tape, I guess, or on film, so that maybe if someone else comes across this and experiences the same kinds of worrying thoughts about time, maybe this can be a source of relief for you, or the start of something to think about. Um, and you know how I was stuck in the middle of the hourglass in the present, and there's no escaping it, no matter how hard you try. I realize this is how I feel sometimes when I meditate, or when I read a book, or when I have a very interesting conversation with a friend, or when I play guitar, especially when I play guitar. Um, I often say, although I'm aware it sounds a bit, a little bit cheesy, but I like to say that when I play guitar, it feels as if I was sitting within myself, and I'm fully in the present, especially if I'm improvising or playing in the moment, and jamming with myself and coming up with ideas on the spot. It truly feels as if I was sat within myself, you know, if I was taking the best rest, and if I was fully aware of my surrounding and of the present moment. And then I realized, yeah, that's what it is: meditation, reading, having a fun conversation, playing guitar. It's living, it's being in the present. It reminds me of that quote by John Lennon. It's not a quote; it's a lyric from the song "Beautiful Boy," I think, when John sings, "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." So much truth in that. Um, it's true. If you're too busy thinking of, oh, what's the next step, what's my future gonna be like, or if you're too busy thinking back on the past, oh, was that cringe when I said that, or when I did that, or should I have done it differently, um, did I do something wrong, things like that. Of course, it can be useful and beneficial to look back on the past, um, always having empathy for others and for yourself, and looking back over your shoulder and self-assessing in a way. Um, I did that. What I did there was good. I should do it again. this I could have improved on my behavior, or I could have improved on my approach to whatever situation I was faced with. And then you assess, and then you work on yourself, for instance, and you become better, you grow. So I'm not saying we should always forget about the past and never worry about the future. There are times for these things. But the present is what it's at. It's the only real that we have. It's the only material that we can work with. And so I think we should all thrive and chase for whatever activity or brain exercise or whatever kind of occupation that grounds us in the present and that reminds us that it's okay. We're just stardust on a rock that's shooting through space. And if you zoom out far enough, you start realizing that nothing really matters in the grand scheme of things, except the present moment and what you do with it. So yeah, it was a bit of a difficult video for me to shoot, this one, I'll be honest, to collect my thoughts and put it into words. It's more of a sensation I have, it's more of a state of mind rather than an actual idea I can present or argument for. But I tried here. Hopefully you get something out of this video. Hopefully it makes some sort of sense. And I feel like to conclude on this video, I would like to play a bit of music. I brought my guitar and I'm gonna play a quick tune. First, I'll have a sip of water. Stay hydrated, everyone. And fuck Kool-Aid and all those weird trends that are basically an instrument of the system to make us consume more sugar and stay unhealthy. Fuck all that. Stay healthy, drink some water. All right, music time. Whoop. Here's Nyla, my beloved guitar. I talked about Nyla in my previous video, the one in the cherry tree. So here it is. What will I play? Good question. All right. All right. Have a good rest of the day, everybody. Take it easy. Peace, love, and music.